started. Welcome to the special council meeting, and thank you very much to the elected members for making the extra time to get here. Especially Michael, you're very busy at the moment. If we can please stand for the acknowledgement of the country. The City of Victor Harbor acknowledges the Ramangeri and the Narrangeri people, the traditional custodians of the land and surrounding waters where we live. We acknowledge their deep connection to country, and we pay our respects to elders. Respect is
Yep. City of Victor Harbor is committed to diversity, equity and inclusion. We respect people of all ages, abilities, genders, sexualities, religions and beliefs, cultures and backgrounds.
service acknowledged.
We recognise the brave individuals who have served and continue the nation. We remember those who have sacrificed service to us.
Almighty God, we ask you to bless this council and agent change, people of this city and beyond. Direct and prosper in deliberations. Your name, welfare of the.
Please be seated. We only have one apology, and that is Councillor Mann, and you'd be really pleased to hear that he will be back for the next council meeting that we have on the 26th, is it? 28th. He'll be back there, so that's fantastic. We've only got two items of business, the first being the representation review, the initial consultation results and future direction. I will take it that you have read the review. We've certainly had a workshop on this. And so the first recommendation is that council receive and note the initial consultation engagement summary, which is provided at attachment A. If someone would like to move that way, Stuart moving that way and Carol seconding that. Do either of you want to speak to that? No. Does anybody want to speak to receiving and noting the review? In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. The council support the following, well, there's two recommendations. First one being that council support the in-principle directions to inform the preparation of the draft representation review for consultation with the community. That the name of the council be retained, that the council's composition of 1 mayor and 9 councillors be retained, that the council retains its existing no ward structure with 9 area councillors, or that number 0.3, that the council divide the council area into wards and that a workshop be held with council members to consider the options regarding the number of wards, how many councillors in each ward and names. I have somebody to move one of those results. Councillor Schofield.
Yes, I would like to move recommendation 2, that the council support the following in principle directions to inform the preparation and the draft representation review report.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you. Councillor Quinton. Would either of you like to speak to that? Councillor Schofield.
Yes, look, I've given this quite a lot of thought, and I don't think it would really serve our community at this particular stage. I don't.
So what won't serve our community?
So it's not going to support us to go into wards. And I don't think the information that our public have is fully understood, and that is going by quite a few people coming up and speaking to me, and so therefore I'm voting this way.
Thank you. Councillor Quinton, would you like to speak to this?
echo those sentiments. Given it a lot of thought, read up on it, spoken to a lot of people, and I don't think it will benefit the community to go to a ward system at this stage.
Thank you. Does anybody want, Councillor Henderson?
Yes, I agree. For our particular council, I don't think wards is a very rational idea. We are a fairly small council. We are also a very dynamic council in that we are having quite a lot of development take place at the moment, and we already know that development in the area will increase. And there are several criteria when thinking about wards. Wards need to have equal numbers of voters in each ward. We also need to take into account the nature of substantial demographic changes that may occur in the foreseeable future. We know there are going to be changes. We don't know exactly what they are. So if we create wards, it's quite likely that in 2 years' time we'll be rejigging the wards because we'll have development in certain ward areas. We also need to take into account the population of the area and the effect each ward would have on the population, because to create wards, one of the criteria is to create wards of residents with similar demographics. So with a council with one town and one very uniform rural area, it would be very difficult physically to choose how to divide that, for example, into 3 wards with 3 councillors in each, because you are then incorporating quite different demographics, not only in ages, but also in lifestyle and work life, etc. We also need to consider the financial implications. Changes like this come at a cost, and it's quite likely that the Electoral Commissioner would need to recoup any costs associated with changing our council to wards. And just to add to that, if a ward quota varies by more than 20%, for example, we'd need to go back to the Electoral Commission. And as I said, we're a dynamic council, still growing, and at this point in time, it doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. Councillor Burns and then Councillor Schiller.
Okay. I prefer the second option for a couple of reasons. One, we'd gone out to the community and 74% of respondents said they would actually like wards. I think previously, which is higher than when we went out previously. Just to correct a couple of statements being made, there is no criteria on demographics for wards. The only criteria is that each ward has to have an equal number of people who are entitled to vote. It's not about age or demographics or anything. And also that when they do wards, as was explained to us, they take into account the foreseen growth areas when they determine the wards. And the Electoral Commission did come back to say it would be minimal, negligible cost involved. Because this is going out to the community for consultation, I just think let the community decide. We have our views. A lot of views were expressed before the consultation occurred, and I think there's been overwhelming feedback from the community that they'd like to have wards, and I think we need to go back out and say, here are our 3 options: keeping the name of the council, keeping the composition of the mayor and the 9 councillors, but we're proposing wards. Now, the community may say, no, we don't want wards, and I think that's fine. I'm happy to go with what the community wants, but you know, if only 1 or 2% said they wanted wards, I would agree with the other councillors here. But because we've had such an overwhelming response back to the survey, I think we need to go out to the community and ask them accordingly.
Just a clarification, we've got option 1 sitting up in there as our voting for. Is that correct? Thank you.
Sorry, that is correct.
right.
Part of option 1 is that council retain its existing no ward structure with 9 area councillors.
Okay, I'll speak to that now if I can.
Yep, sure.
Thank you. Victor Harbour Council currently is 350 square kilometres of area, as opposed to an area like Alexandrina, which has 1,800 square kilometres. We have one major township and some smaller outlying areas like Back Valley and Hindmarsh Valley, so forth. So in essence, we've got a small area that most councillors should have an understanding of what is going on throughout the whole of the council. We can't compare that to somewhere like Alexandrina, where they have 8 townships and 3 major townships, and they only have 3 wards in such a large area. Our population at the moment is 16,600 approximately. Alexandrina Council is somewhere around the 30,000. I can't remember the figure right now. We could have a scenario where at the moment nominations go in and you don't know who's been nominated until they're up there on the Electoral Commission site. So we could have 10 quality candidates in one ward and 3 in another. So we could be losing good quality candidates in a ward. And I don't believe that at the moment, at our current population and our current area that our council is covering, that most councillors can be across anything that is going on within our council. The issue of agricultural representation is brought up quite often. And at the moment, we've got multiple councillors with agricultural business experience and living in the rural areas. We could segment into wards to try and get agricultural representation, but if that is encompassing a major part of the city population, we may not get that councillor in that ward anyway. So based on those thoughts, I will be voting in favour of retaining our existing process.
Thank you, Councillor Schiller. Councillor Corembo.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question first. If we had gone with option 2, we still as a chamber could have decided not to go with wards, correct? It's not a definitive. If we went out, this is about still going out to consultation, because we're going out to consultation not to go forward with wards. Is that the process?
Can you clarify that, Victoria?
So the changes to the Act is the council needs to initiate a representation review report, and previously you would give options. So you do an options report and then you do your final, which would go out for consultation on options.
Yeah.
And then you would do your representation report,
Okay.
and that would go back out to the community. So previously there was 2 rounds of consultation, and then you would submit that to the minister based on your decision from that consultation. Now the council is only required to do the representation report once council's determined that it would maintain its current structure or it would consider a ward structure. So ultimately you are looking to give directions to the consultants that's undertaking your representation report that you're looking to, for example, retain your existing structure, and as to why you are looking to retain your existing structure and not implement wards. That then goes out for consultation. So this decision is about retaining your existing structure and consulting with the community as to why, or not retaining your existing structure and implementing wards and explaining to the community as to why. Okay. So yes, you're correct in that you're going to undertake another stage of consultation, but the chamber is now required to do that determination as to which way your representation report is leaning, as opposed to doing an options report that used to be made with the community. And that's a change that came in with the 22 reforms.
Okay. I guess it's interesting because I've heard 3 elected members say that everybody they've spoken to are against wards, and myself, Stuart, and probably David have spoken to, obviously must be different people that are all for wards. It would be good if we were maybe getting a cross section of people, but I have not had one person come to me and say that wards wouldn't be a good idea, and they've given me their reasons, and I agree with them. I guess the other thing is too, we have gone out to the community, and 75%, be it a small number, have come back and asked for us to go to wards. So now we're basically saying, as a chamber, which is our right to do so, is we've taken what you've said, we're dismissing what you're saying, we're going down this avenue. In regards to the quality candidates that we're concerned about losing, that's democracy. And I think the other part of democracy is actually asking people how they want to be represented. It's come back clear that they want wards. And so we're now not allowing that to happen. And now we're going to go back out to the community and say, we have to explain to them why. My question is, if it comes back overwhelmingly that they still want wards, what do we do then? Are we going to listen, or are we just going to persist on saying that we know better? That's the question I guess we have to ask ourselves if this vote gets up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp, do you want to speak?
This agenda item and what we're talking about and what we're going through is about representation, representing our community, our people. And we want to give them the best option available to them to be represented and to have access to their local candidate or their local elected member. Yes, wards understand the complexities of having wards and changes of boundaries and all that, but then again, it's no different to the state or federal electorates, which change around too. So I think it's really about understanding what we're here for. Again, is our people and giving them the opportunity to come and speak to their elected member on issues that may affect their ward, if we did have wards, hypothetically. Now, not every area is going to be the same. Every area is going to be a little bit different with their own their own specific issues, which an elected member in that ward can actually address through the council. But the role of the elected members is for the whole council as a whole, all the time. And they're just an avenue for the people in their ward to actually access that elected member. So with 156 responses, unfortunately, a very poor response from our community about this. If they were that passionate about it, maybe they should have responded. Again, 3 weeks most probably wasn't enough time, depending a lot. Some people said never knew it was out there. So again, it's about how we deliver our message to the community to ensure that everyone is fully across the issues. 156 responses, 115 people wanted wards and 39 were against. Now, you look at it in the sense that this is not a vote. We understand that, but it's their opinion, and their opinion counts. If we don't listen to their opinions and understand exactly what they're saying and what they want, then what are we doing our job or not doing our job? So I won't be supporting the current one at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Councillor Mackenzie, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I'll just add that the people in the community that I've spoken to, likewise to these guys over there, have preferred the non-ward system. Their point of views is because of the size of our council region at the moment, it doesn't necessarily make sense in their point of view. Alexandrina, for example, because it's spread over such a wide area, breaking down their townships into smaller wards does make sense for them. And but I agree with those who I've spoken to that it doesn't feel as though it's the right time to introduce wards yet. So yeah, I'll support this to go out to the next stage of consultation.
Thank you. Have you got a question, Councillor Correndo?
Yeah, I do. Just wondering, is the growth forecast for the City of Victor Harbor any greater than, say, our neighbouring partners that run wards, such as, obviously I think Yankalilla does and Alexandrina? Are they slated to have the same amount of growth, or because that was one of the reasons brought up for not having wards? So Is there some exceptional amount of growth happening in Vic that I don't know about?
It's about 2% growth we've got at the moment. I don't know what the growth is in the other areas, but ours is about 2%.
Victoria, would you know what the,
So under the GARP, are you referring to?
Yeah.
So I think, sorry, Graham, we're about 8% of the GARP's growth along the coast.
8% across the region.
Yeah, across the region, sorry. So we're
Sorry,
not.
no, 12% across the region. And we're about half of those numbers, which equates to about 13,500 population across the 30-year plan for GARP, which is probably 3 times our growth rate at around 200 a year. Our local strategic work around growth is closer to about 4,500 for that same period.
But in
So
terms of
depends on
whether,
what figures you look at.
yeah, again, we'd have to look at what Alexandrina's is because their population is currently about 27,000 compared to our 16. So again, their growth, I'm not sure what that would equate to.
not a problem, thank you.
Councillor Schofield, do you want to close the debate?
I have listened to my fellow elected members, but it still doesn't add up to me. If I look at, and I think they did mention the other day, something like 12,000 of our 16,000 people were entitled to vote or have a say. And if you look at 115 people, it's not very many. So I still will go with the motion that's on the floor. And I think that this is something that once we get the development that is happening at the moment, which is quite huge for Victor Harbour, then we start looking at a satellite city, then it'll be time, I believe, for the next council or the one after to consider going into wards.
Thank you. Everyone's had their say. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Division call, please.
Those in favour, could you please stand? Councillor McKenzie, thank you. Councillor Schiller, Councillor Quinton, Councillor Schofield and Councillor Henderson, and those against, Councillor Burns, Councillor Karemba and Councillor Kemp. And for the record, I actually agree with not going towards at this stage. I think that we are too small with a population of 16,500 people compared with 27, as you said, in Alexandrina. We've only got one big population.
Point of order.
Excuse me, you've voted and I'm allowed to say this. I don't accept your point of order.
Well, I'm sorry. I think that the vote's been done. We're finished.
Yeah, the vote has finished and that's why I'm speaking now. I don't want to influence it, so I'm speaking now. Councillor Kemp.
Don't know what the point is then. Can you explain the
The
point?
point is that there's people listening, there's people in the gallery, and they would probably want to know what my position on this is, and so I'm letting the community know, rather than hiding behind, as I've been accused, the votes of the chamber. So I'm saying that I would have, if I had to make a casting vote, voted for wards for the reasons that have been given here today. We now move on to the second item of the agenda, and the first recommendation of that item is to go into confidence. This item is around the Regional Community Sport and Recreation Precinct, and the recommendation is to go into confidence. I'll just add to that recommendation that we have Ben Coop and Fred Porter here from Alinea, and they can stay in the room. But other staff members will need to go as per recommendation 1. Would somebody like to move that? Thank you, Councillor Henderson, and second, Councillor Schiller. All those.
Sorry, why do we have to have Alinea and, sorry, I didn't get the other gentleman's name. I thought this was just an open discussion for
They're
elected
both
members.
from Alinea, And you may have questions for them as part of the discussion. They'll be able to provide us. One of the guiding principles of council is to have as much information as possible so that you can make decisions that have got based on information, and they'll be able to provide any information. Yep. If you want to have a discussion without them here, we can ask them to leave afterwards. Yep. So we had a recommendation. I can't remember who moved that. Councillor Henderson and Councillor Schiller